Hi, I wanted to touch on this topic today. Each factory has to decide how much effort they want to put into developing their systems and their processes, right? So you set up your factory, day one it's here, and then you start to put in place, define the roles and responsibility, put some processes in place, document them, give a few KPIs to people and follow up, push for improvement, set up a proper way to address problems and to follow up and so on and so forth, right? So you move up the ladder here, if I may say. At the same time, if your production volume is very low, you probably don't need to be all the way up here and have the same standards as large factories that are very, very sophisticated, right? So you also need to consider the production volume, because with very high volume of parts or products that your factory is going to make come much higher risk, and your customers, but also your finance department, frankly, will look at how developed, how mature, how sophisticated your systems and processes are. Okay, and you have to make the call by yourself. Now, people look at standards such as these and they think, okay, let's just meet these standards, and then it's going to be a signal to everybody and we'll be fine. Now, I don't exactly agree with that. Let me explain why. So ISO 9001 is a very common quality management standard, and it gives minimum requirements. That's just a set of minimum requirements. If you are found compliant with these requirements, a certifying body will say, okay, you can be certified to ISO 9001. Okay, and it does send a signal, but not a very strong one at that. The bar is not very high. Now, of course, as the production volume goes up, also the bar goes up a little bit. You will be requested more if you're here than if you're here. Now, it does make sense, I guess. As your volume increases, as your risk increase, well, your risk analysis, which is totally part of the ISO 9001 processes, have to reflect that and have to call for adequate systems and processes, right? That is the theory. In practice, well, if you're here with very low production volume, your risks are low and maybe things are not too complicated in your organization, you might not need a lot of training, a lot of very precise definitions of the roles and responsibilities of people, very clear work instructions on how to do, and so on and so forth. But as you move here to the right, what will be considered adequate and appropriate, these are words that come back through these types of standards, will just go up, and that's normal. But the bar is never very, very high, right? And that's why a lot of very good manufacturers, do you think Toyota is ISO 9001 certified? No, they looked at it and they were like, wow, this is kind of very, very basic, we're way past that, right? Now, what they do is, the Volkswagens and General Motors and so on of the world, they worked on this kind of standard 16949, which is ISO 9001 plus, let's say. It is designed from the start for very high volume parts, because when they make a new car, they develop a new model, they launch a new model, they expect it to sell, at least 200,000 pieces of cars, and if possible, 500,000 or 1 million, right? They have some targets in mind usually. So it's all designed for very high volume. You also have kind of a curve. If it's very, very, very high volume, then again, it goes up for the same reason. This bar is much higher than this one. Let's take a simple example. If you have some measuring and testing equipment, ISO 9001 will have some basic requirements, such as, okay, for accuracy, make sure that they are calibrated or verified. Okay, that's it. ISO 9001 does not require, for example, to check precision. However, this is required here as part of this standard with gauge R&R and similar types of studies. So that's why the bar is much higher. You also have to use statistical process control. There's a lot of tools with that, but you have to do something. You have to do proper FMEA risk analysis. You have to document process control plans. There are a lot of extra requirements. It's ISO 9001 plus, really. That's what it is. Now, is this something you should follow? Not necessarily. Again, where are you, in terms of risks and production volume? You need to think of what is sort of the plan, how sophisticated your systems and processes should be, and then work on that. And then once this is in place, keep it alive and keep it evolving. But you don't need to have 10 continuous improvement people in a factory of 100 people. It just doesn't make sense. So I hope that's helpful. Reach out to me if you have some questions. Thank you.